Hi everyone, welcome to Thursday. Today we are going to take a look at AIR New Zealand, and again this is a dual listed stock, so it's listed on both the New Zealand Stock Exchange and the Australian. And before I jump across that normal housekeeping, and that is this is for educational purposes only. I'm just using the methodology that I use when I'm looking at evaluating a share. So no way is this intended to be personalised financial advice. For that, you do need to go and have a chat to your own financial advisor. But do remember that if you are wanting me to review a share for you, then by all means, let me know in the comments, reach out. I'm happy to help. Also happy to help you on your own educational journey when it does come to share trading and teach you the systems and methods that I use. It's not about picking one that's right, it's about picking one that is right for you and fits in with your lifestyle and the way you like to trade or invest into the share market. And I'm happy to teach you mine if you feel that resonates with you. So anyway, let's take a look at AIR New Zealand. Here we go. I've got AIR New Zealand up on the screen for the New Zealand market. And as this is over a 5-year period, you can pretty well see that it's been trending down all that time. Let's go and pop a moving average on. We'll just pop the 200 period moving average, just so that gives us an idea as to the overall trend of the market. And you can clearly see here that AIR New Zealand is trading well below that 200-week moving average. And it does look like, based on that, even though the 200-week moving average is a very slow moving average, it still means that the share's trading beneath it. So it's not something that we would obviously want to have a look into investing into any further, based on my methodology, of course, because if you've watched me before, I don't like to invest in shares that are trading below their moving averages, and the 200-week moving average is certainly an indicator as to perhaps where the market is trending at the moment. Yes, it is slow to move, and that's why we also use the 30-week and 15 weeks just to actually get a shorter snapshot of the time frame. But based on the 200-week moving average, no, definitely not something I would want to be investing into. It is on a downtrend, as you can see there. Let's jump across to the Australian market and just see how that's comparing as well. So we'll pop on that 200 period moving average. And for both of these, I've actually just used the simple moving average, okay? So it's not putting more emphasis towards the later end of the stock performance. It's just averaging out over this 5-year period, which is what I've got my chart on. And you can see here it's the same deal, okay, that it's still below that moving average, and it is a declining moving average. So it's not, like I keep saying, it's not something I would want to look into too much further. Looking at the Australian market here, you can see that, whilst there's not a lot of volume, but there's been 3 weeks in a row now that the market has been down. That to me is an immediate sort of red flag. If I'm looking at investing into a share, the moment I see 2 red candles in a row, irrespective of the size, it's a stop for me. Let's just jump back to the New Zealand market and see how that's fared as well. It looks like we've had a couple of positive weeks in our market. Okay, so that's a little bit of a difference there. The interesting thing that I did note, now I'll just take the moving average off. If we look at the price, so on the New Zealand market, we're looking at $58.50. And if I jump across to the Australian market, you can see that that's trading at 53 cents. Now, I've gone and used the ANZ foreign currency calculator, and so it's rounded it up to 59 cents for me. Interestingly enough, that is exactly what you would get in Australia is 53 cents. So it's really interesting that the New Zealand stock of ANZ is trading at 58.50, so 59 cents. And if you were to buy that into Australian, you would get 53 cents. So it's quite interesting, I think, that there is not a lot of sort of arbitrage opportunity in that regard between the Forex markets or the Forex values. Of course, it does depend on what platform you're using and whether you're using different platforms, whether they're keeping it all in New Zealand dollars. There's all sorts of variables, so you do need to do your research on that. The other thing that I noticed as well, that in New Zealand, on the Australian market, it doesn't pay a dividend very often. It paid one back in April 2024, and then it also paid one in September 2023. Now, if I look at the New Zealand market, Obviously, again, there's been a lot of periods where it hasn't paid a dividend, but it's paid one more recently here in the New Zealand market. So the most recent one was March this year. Then we had September last year as well. And then, of course, we go back to April, which was the same time as the Australian market. So it's interesting, I found, that we've had 2 more dividends paid more recently in the last 12 months than what the Australian market has had. Right, let's go to our normal moving averages and just see how they are actually looking. So we'll put on the 30-week and we'll use an exponential. And you can see here that on the New Zealand market, Air New Zealand is trading only just, but it is below that moving average. So potentially it could still be a declining moving average, like I talked about before with the 200 period one. Let's also pop on the 15-week moving average. And you can see here that whilst the 15-week moving average has crossed through the 30, that is a good positive indicator, the share itself is actually still trading below both of them. And it looks as though, potentially depending on obviously what's going to happen in the market over the next few weeks, but it looks as though that 15-week moving average could be about to close down through the 30-week moving average. And again, that to me is a negative sign. And there's actually a term for that called the dead cross. And that is exactly that, where the 15-week moving average crosses through the 30 on a downward movement. And that's referred to as a dead cross. A golden cross, of course, is the opposite, where the 15-week moving averages crosses up through the 30. And you can see that here. And usually, as you can see, if we were just looking at this small period, so if you were just wanting to do a very short-term trade on Air New Zealand, you could see here you had that golden cross happen at around the beginning of this year, and then we had quite a few, several good weeks before it started to sell off again. For me, I want to be looking for longer term trends, and you can definitely see with Air New Zealand that it's been in a long downward trend. Hey, at some point it probably will reach a bottom, and I'm certainly not in the market of trying to guess where that's going to happen. But at the moment, no, that's not something that I would want to have a look at. Let's jump across to the 1 year. Now, under the 1 year, these are daily candles on what's happening with Air New Zealand, and you can see that the 15-day moving average crossed through the 30-day moving average at sort of around the 6th of May this year, and they're still declining. So again, that is an indicator for me that no, I wouldn't want to be entering into this share, definitely not at this stage. Let's go back to the 5-year chart again. Now, I'll take off those moving averages and let's make a comparison as to where it is against the main board, because obviously it's trading on the main board here in New Zealand. And you can see here that the main board is trading a heck of a lot higher than what Air New Zealand is. So again, for me, that is a share that I would not want to be owning, because even if the main board is in an upward trajectory, which it's actually not. The main board for the New Zealand market is trending sideways, and it has been for quite some time. But I would actually want to see that a share like Air New Zealand, which is on the main board, I would want to see that it is one of the contributing shares to the performance of the overall indices. Clearly it's not, it's a laggard on it. And so again, that for me, that would be another knockout. So I hope that's helped. Let's stop sharing. I hope that's helped. That's sort of my synopsis on Air New Zealand. Sit back, watch, wait and see, but I certainly wouldn't be looking at entering into it at the moment. For the person who's potentially looking at arbitrage opportunities, again, do your own research. Obviously, using the cross rates with the ANZ calculator, the price that it is on the New Zealand market is exactly what its value is on the Australian market currently. So you'd really have to do your research as to whether there is any arbitrage opportunities in either of those markets. From what I can sort of see, perhaps not, but you have to do it based on your own rules and what you're specifically looking for. So, hey, I hope that's helped. Until next week, take care. And remember, if there is anything that you would like me to take a look at, sing out, happy to do so.